Hey everyone, this is Phenomenon from Merlin Sports, and joining me today to break down the AFC South is D-Dog. And how are you today, my friend?
I am well. It's uh it's getting to the dog days of summer.
And today we are going to look at the AFC South. We're going to kind of break down each team, see how we think they're going to fare this year, and then at the end we'll give you who our pick is for division winner and playoff teams, if any. So I'm going to read them out based on the order of finish last year. So, of course, the team that won the AFC South last year were the Houston Texans with a 10-7 record. And all the other teams were below 500. So Indianapolis finished second at 8-9. Jacksonville was third at 4-13 in a pretty disastrous year for them. And Tennessee was 3-14, and they were expected to have a poor year last year. So that was they met expectations. And so we will start with the aforementioned Tennessee Titans, who, due to that dismal year, picked up the top quarterback in the draft in Cam Ward. So, there's a lot of interest in Tennessee and to see how Cam Ward is going to fare this year, and what was deemed a draft that was light on elite quarterback talent, but they managed to grab the best of the lot in terms of quarterbacks from the draft. So I will turn it over to D Dog and how you think the season's going to work out for Tennessee.
Well, this division is near and dear to my heart because last year we got absolutely clobbered about our Tennessee prediction, which turned out to be right, that they were going to be dead last and struggled to win like four games. So, um, but they got Cam Ward. I don't know how good he is. I know he's the number one overall pick in the draft, and something about him, sparked them because Shadur was supposed to be the number one overall pick, and then it became Cam Ward. He had a very good year at Miami, but they didn't win. Like Miami didn't win, and they didn't have a very difficult schedule, right? But they didn't make the playoffs, college football playoffs, with which 12 teams. They couldn't win the weak ACC, and so there's got to be some questions about him at quarterback. Obviously, he's better than what they've had because they haven't had a really good quarterback. Um, but I don't see them doing much better than they did last year. Maybe because they have Cam Ward, and if he's better than, if he's at least a little bit better, then they might jump up and win four games or five games if they're lucky. But um, I think this is a rebuilding team that's still going to have a long way to go before they get back to where they've been. Because this was a very good football team for many years under Mike Vrabel. But I see them finishing last again. Right. I think they're the worst team in this division.
hmm Well, yeah, I mean, there'll be a lot of interest with lots of eyes on Cam Ward to see how he adjusts to the pro level. So, the is still going to be worthy to follow and see how the season goes. They got a decent running back in Tony Pollard. A decent wide receiver in Calvin Ridley. So, but and I think they picked up Tyler Lockett as well on wide receiver. So, they got not many weapons, but there's some talent at least for Cam Ward to throw to. But I always look at when you bring in a young quarterback, you need to protect that young quarterback, right? And looking at, offensive line looks like I'm looking at the unit grades here. Looks like a half decent offensive line. So that kind of bodes well to protecting the young quarterback. The defense does not look too good though. And they were not good a year ago. Um, They finished minus 149 in point differential, and they only won one game at home all year. Pretty, a pretty disastrous season, but it was kind of expected that they were not going to be that good. I think they will be marginally better this year. I think they will improve on those three wins. I don't think by much, but I think that they will. I think they will be slightly improved, but they're in a rebuild, so um, it's to be expected. In a rebuild, there's lots of growing pains. I'm looking at their schedule here. I mean, they start off playing Denver and the Rams are their first two games, so that's going to be pretty tough off right off the bat. And they'll play San Francisco and Kansas City later in the season, as well as the Chargers. They do benefit from a weak division, so it's possible they can split with Jacksonville or Indianapolis in the division. So, they may be able to pick up a couple of wins. I think they will improve on that 3-14 record. Not by much, though. And then now let's talk about those Jacksonville Jaguars, who, I mean, it was a disastrous year at 4-13. They were kind of expected to. I don't think they were expected to be a great team last year, but I think they were in the mix to at least push Houston for the division lead, and perhaps an outside shot at the wild card. But um things just fell off the fell off the rails, and Trevor Lawrence getting injured, last year, and their coach was fired. Doug Peterson was fired, and so it just went downhill for them. And let me see this year. So they finished 4-13, pretty dismal. Um, So, Trevor Lawrence, we're a few years into his career, and he showed some flashes. Last year was not a good year, but they paid him coming off his rookie contract, so they're kind of locked into Trevor Lawrence, and I think this might be a turning point. Whether, like, Trevor Lawrence, is he an above average quarterback, some of the flashes he's shown in the past, or is he gonna fizzle out and kind of will Jacksonville move off of Trevor Lawrence, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And this year I think might be a telling year in terms of where that goes. They did pick up Travis Hunter, one of the most dynamic players in the draft, who of course, he's a dual threat and plays both defense and offense, wide receiver and cornerback. Although, I've heard at the pro level they may try to curtail playing, both, like the same that he did in college. I think he would probably play primarily at wide receiver, and you may see him make some appearances and on the defensive side of the ball, but I think that will be minimized. So there's some excitement there. Of course, Travis Etienne at running back, Brian Thomas Jr. wide receiver. So there's some weapons around Trevor Lawrence. However, it looks like their offensive line looks a bit weak, and that was going to spell bad. That's going to be bad news for Trevor Lawrence if they can't protect him, because he is not he's not elusive like a lot of young quarterbacks are in the modern NFL, and coming off some recent injury history that kind of spells bad news. So I worry about that, and I don't think they're not that great on the defensive side of the ball, and so I think it could be another tough year in Jacksonville. And do I think that they'll be better than 4-13? I think they might be a game or two better. Maybe they'll get the 5 or 6 wins, but I think it's still going to be a losing season in Jacksonville. What's your assessment on the Jags this year?
Well, I mean, there's this division is based around and centered around young quarterbacks, right? If you look at this division, you got CJ Stroud in Houston, you got Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, you got Cam Ward as a Titan, right? And then you got Anthony Richardson as the Indianapolis quarterback. For the Jaguars, I'm excited to see Travis Hunter play because he was a really great college player. And yeah, I think he can play both ways. I think he'll play both ways. Um, they have brought in some talent into their into their fold, but I think the jury's out on Trevor Lawrence. I keep hearing, you know, he's a generational quarterback, he's elite, but you don't see it in the NFL. In college, yes, he was a very good quarterback in college, right? And but it doesn't always translate to the NFL, and he hasn't figured it out yet. I mean, he's had some good moments, but he's had some other moments where you like, yep, it's growing pains and stuff like that. But he's in now. I think this is his fourth year he's getting into now, so it's going to be very interesting for Trevor Lawrence to see where he goes with his career because I think this is a make it or break it year. Jacksonville's going to have to decide what to do with him after this season. If they don't make any progress, they're gonna move off of him and find another quarterback. It's just how it is, you know. It's what you've done for me lately. It's not about that. And maybe Trevor needs a change of scenery, man. We've seen it work for Baker Mayfield down in Tampa. Now he
And
jumped around a few times.
Sam Darnold as well seems to have got a second life.
Yeah, so that's where it is. They do have talent in terms of they have some good running backs. They got Etienne's a good running back and stuff like that. This division is weak, so I think they're gonna battle it out with Indianapolis for who's gonna finish second in the division. Um, I don't think they're significantly better than they were last year. So having said that, I think they're still gonna finish third. And what are they were 4-13 last year? I think they can get to 6 wins. So let's say
Hmm.
they go 6-11, right? But they're not challenging for a playoff, so they're not challenging for the division title. I think it's clear who the best team in the division is.
Okay. And then speaking of those Indianapolis Colts, they brought in Daniel Jones to compete with Anthony Richardson, and I think Anthony Richardson ended up getting himself injured in the preseason. So
He
it looks
is.
like Daniel Jones it's his job to lose to at least start the year. So what do you think of the Colts' chances this season?
Um,
And last year they finished 8-9, so they were just flirting with 500.
yeah, but I mean, they were a very competitive team last year. They couldn't close some games, so they lost. This team is going to make or break based on what happens with Anthony Richardson. He's up and down, so you know he's got all the physical tools to be a superstar, but he just hasn't put it together. And if they can find it, it's finding that balance to be the guy he is, right? He played 1 year at college at Florida, right? He was in the program for 3 years, but he only really started 1 year. I mean, I was surprised when he came out because
Hmm.
I,
Well,
I I I
yeah,
don't think he was good enough then.
I,
But
I think he's kind of looked at as a long-term project, but he's just kind of thrust into the starting role
he
early in his career with Indianapolis.
yeah, I mean, he was raw, right? basically they drafted him with the physical tools that he had. They said he's 6'5", he can run, he's got a cannon of an arm, he can throw the ball deep. So let's draft him and then just groom him. But the grooming process, bringing in Daniel Jones does not help this team. I mean, you might as well call it Zach Wilson, right? Daniels is awful. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna mix words here, man. Uh, like he's not that good, right? And so, if Richardson is on the IR for any extended period of time, that's not going to help the Indianapolis Colts. Can they improve it? Can they improve on last year? I think they finished the same record, 8-9. I don't see them jumping ahead and being better. And they might even fall to 6-10, 6-11, or 7-10, right?
Mm-hmm.
It depends, but um, like this is not a team that's gonna scare anybody. Uh, they'll be competitive. They got some good. They got some talent at the running back position, right?
Yeah, Jonathan
Um,
Taylor. Yeah,
yeah,
an elite running back.
he's a big bruiser, elite running back, and so if they can establish the run, I mean, I think their offensive line is a bit of a makeshift, but if they can establish the run and keep it from Richardson having to win the game for them, I think they'll be all right. And he's got to stay healthy because he hasn't stayed healthy either. So it's going to be a very interesting of the teams with quarterbacks. Obviously, Cam Ward's a rookie, so he's going to get a couple seasons to get his feet wet. Richardson is not in a making a break year now because they knew he was a project. So that's really the challenge on his side. And then you have Lawrence and you have CJ Stroud. Stroud's a stud, and Trevor, and the jury's out on Trevor Lawrence. So I like them to finish second in the division, slightly ahead of Jacksonville.
Yeah. Okay. I think talent wise, yeah, I think they're the second most talented roster in the division. We mentioned Jonathan Taylor, the elite running back, and they got Michael Pittman Jr., wide receiver, who's a really good wide receiver. So they got a good running back, a good wide receiver, and Daniel Jones. I mean, I think he's going to get an opportunity to see if he can be a number one quarterback somewhere else. Um, I think he's just an average quarterback. I think maybe you have a more negative opinion of him than I do. I don't think he's bottom of the barrel, but I don't think he's not a difference maker. I think he's just average, somewhere in the middle, in my opinion. So, but having a good running back and a good wide receiver certainly will help him. I think Daniel Jones will benefit from a better offensive line in Tennessee than he had in New York. So that should help him, maybe make a slight improvement. And I think their defense is half decent. So they I think they will be similar. I think they will flirt with 500 again. They picked up Javarius Ward in the secondary, and he's a pretty good cornerback. So I think that improves their pass defense somewhat. So I think we will be an average team and will flirt with the same sort of record. They were 89 last year. I don't think that they'll flip the switch and be 9-8. I think they'll probably be at the same level as last year. So they'll probably stay the same in my opinion. So why don't we move on to Houston Texans? Finished 10-7 and won the division last year in CJ Stroud's second year. And as what we saw as his second year was not as good as his first year, and something that we're keeping in mind with other quarterbacks that are going into their sophomore seasons, because a lot was expected of CJ Stroud. And they did finish 10-7, and they and they won the division, a weak division, and they kind of finished even in point differential, which is kind of pretty telling of like some of the struggles they ran into. But they are the most talented team in the division. I don't think there's any doubt about that. That you Joe Mixon at running back, very good running back. Nico Collins, wide receiver, Christian Kirk. They got some pretty good talent on the offensive side of the ball. How will CJ Stroud bounce back? Last year just um, a bump. And I should add that they added Nick Chubb, running back, so to help the running game. So you can see if Nick Chubb is healthy and you have Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb it could be a two-headed monster at running back if they stay healthy. And that always bodes well for a quarterback, and you have a strong running game. You can certainly insulates the quarterback, and definitely a benefit to the offense. So I mean, they lost Stefan Diggs, but I don't think his impact was that big last year. They lost Tunsil on the offensive line,
Very consistent.
so which is a really good offensive lineman. So when you're losing good players on offensive line, that's always a bit of a concern, but I think that they should be they should be good enough to take the division and look for a bit of a bounce back year for CJ Stroud. And I think that they'll take the division. I like their coach D'Amico Ryans, and also the benefit of their division, meaning having to play Jacksonville twice, Tennessee twice, and Indianapolis twice. I mean, they'd probably get at least 4 of 6, maybe 5 of 6 wins just there.
Yeah,
That's you
yeah,
take you halfway to double digits just in your division, right? So
yeah, yeah.
I think that it's their division to lose. So how are you feeling about the Texans this year?
I totally agree with you that that's their division to lose. I think CJ Stroud bounces back this year. I mean, he had a very good rookie year. I think he caught a lot of people by surprise. I think last year there was some rumblings that there was some bickering with the offensive coordinator and stuff like that. So it didn't have as good a year. They got a new offensive coordinator this year, so it should be better for them to play out. Huge fan of Nico Collins. Again, he's a Michigan guy, and I'm a huge fan of his. And he's big and strong. He's 6'5", can run. I mean, he's not breakaway speed, but he's got very good speed for his size and strength. Adding Nick Chubb helps because he's one of the best running backs in the league. If he can stay healthy, and you got Joe Mixon to offset him, so you have a good sort of 1-2 punch. So obviously they're the best team in the division, and you know they're not gonna struggle. As you said, you start laughing at the 6 wins right there. I'm not gonna. They probably go 5-1 in that, but 5-1 is still good enough over 6. You 5 wins. You need 7 more to get to the playoffs and have a good record. So I see Jacksonville winning the division. I see them winning, not Jacksonville, sorry, Houston winning the division, and I see them winning it very comfortably because I just don't see the other teams to be at that level. They were 10-7 last year. They probably go 12-5 this year because I think they're that good. In terms of overall, D'Amico Ryans is a fabulous coach. I wouldn't call him the top of the line, but amongst the division here, he's the best coach in this division by a mile. And I think they've stuff to prove. They have a solid defense. Receiver wise, other than Nico Collins, they don't really have that great a receiver. Losing Tunsil, it hurts their offensive line, but they brought in Cam Robinson, so he'll help them on the in terms of the offensive line. So uh, I see this team getting back to the playoffs. Challenge. I'm not going to say they're going to make the conference finals, but remember a couple years ago when they got in, they kind of gave Baltimore a little bit of a run for their money. So they can make some noise in the playoffs if once they get there, because I think they'll get there, and we'll see. So yeah, I mean,
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me?
I got Houston, then I have Indianapolis, Jacksonville, and Tennessee bringing up the rear.
Okay. So of those teams, only Houston's making the playoffs
Yep,
by
yep. I
winning the
don't.
division.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think I have the same order. Houston. I don't think that they're going to get to 12 wins. I think they'll probably be around 10-7 or 11-6. So similar record to last year. Yeah, then and I think Indianapolis finishes second just based on the being the team with the second most talent in the division. Jacksonville and Tennessee battling out for the basement, but I think Jacksonville is better than Tennessee. So I think we have the same order, and I do not see any wild card teams coming from this division. Just Houston winning the division, and hopefully we see a bounce back year from CJ Stroud. Okay,
Agreed.
well, yeah, well, that does it for the AFC South, and I'd like to thank D-Dog for joining me for this session. Thanks, D-Dog,
No problem. Thank you for having me.
and we will catch you later with another preview show coming up. Thanks, everyone.